What's good, people? Thanks for choosing Total Payout Podcast. You're chilling with your host, Trouble. Today's date, March 25th, 2026. And we got three picks for y'all today. So let's go ahead and handicap those picks. Let's get to it. So, what the games we're going to handicap today, we got Atlanta versus Detroit, we got OKC versus Boston, and we got Houston versus Minnesota. So, let's go ahead and start with the Atlanta versus Detroit game. It's their fourth meeting. November 18th, first meeting, home game for Atlanta. Detroit won minus 1.5, 120, over the total of 226. Second meeting, December 1st, home game for Detroit. Atlanta plus 9.5. Detroit 99.98, under the total of 232. And then the third meeting, December 12th, home game for Detroit. Detroit minus 6.5, 142, 115, over the total of 232. Now the head-to-head last 10, Detroit 6-4 straight up last 10. Detroit is 6-4 against the spread last 10 and over 8-2 last 10. Now Atlanta 12-2 against the spread last 14, but they're 3-6 against the spread last 9 versus Detroit. They're 10-10 against the spread away versus Eastern Conference. Now Detroit 6-1 straight up last 7 at home, 7-1 against the spread last 8 at home on Wednesdays, and they're 13-10 against the spread at home versus the Eastern Conference. Now my personal line on this game got Detroit minus 5. I'm gonna go ahead and roll with Detroit in this game against the spread minus 2.5. Last time Atlanta out against Houston, not looking good. I know Jalen Johnson's out. I know on the other side, Cade Cunningham's out, so that's a wash. Not saying either team has better, side players, but I do think Detroit being at home with that home court advantage and the way they're playing right now at home, I think Detroit's going to take this game serious. They're not going to look past Atlanta. Atlanta's not necessarily behind them, but the teams behind them are winning. Boston, New York, Cleveland, they're on Detroit's heels. So Detroit needs to win these favorable games at home. And so I think today they go ahead and start with a cover against Atlanta. Obviously, they started with the Lakers, but I think they keep it rolling with Atlanta, covering against Atlanta. Now, second game, we're going to handicap OKC versus Boston. Second meeting, so it's a get back game for Boston. March 12th was the first meeting. Home game, OKC. Boston plus 9. OKC 104, 102, under 216. Last 10. OKC 6-4 straight up last 10. OKC 8-2 against the spread last 10, and over is 8-2 last 10. Now, OKC profile 3-9 against the spread last 12. They're 10-0 straight up last 10, and they're 12-2 straight up away versus the Eastern Conference. Now, Boston is 1-4 against the spread last 5, 7-2 straight up last 9 at home, and they're 5-8 against the spread at home versus the Western Conference. Now, my personal line in this game has OKC minus 3. I think the line opened up minus 2.5. I'm going to go ahead and take my line. I'm going to roll with OKC to cover the 2.5. I don't like the way Boston played against Minnesota. I haven't liked the way they played come on the road trip, and obviously coming off that road trip did not look great. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep fading Boston. I was on an OKC fade when they're getting when they're giving up a lot of points, but 2.5, I think they can cover that against Boston. So I'm gonna go ahead and roll with OKC minus 2.5 on a Wednesday against Boston. Now, third and final game is Houston versus Minnesota. It's the second meeting of the season. I think this is a 3-game series this year, so I think they have another meeting in the middle of April. So January 16th was the first meeting, home game for Houston. Houston minus 3.5. Houston won 110, 105 under the total of 222 and a hook. Head-to-head last 10, Minnesota is 6-4 straight up. They're 5-5 against the spread last 10, so they're even, and then the over is 6-4 last 10. Now, Houston is 4-12 straight up last 16 versus Minnesota, 0-5 against the spread last 5 away from home, and they're 0-5 against the spread last 5 versus the Western Conference. Now, Minnesota 4-2 against the spread last 6, and they're 6-1 straight up last 7 at home versus Houston. Now, home and away, Houston is 7-14 straight up away versus the West, and Minnesota 15-9 straight up at home versus the West. Now, my personal line has this game at Minnesota minus 3. Obviously, Houston opened up minus 1.5. Obviously, Edwards not playing, so they're giving Houston that advantage. I'm gonna go ahead and take Minnesota plus 1.5 at home. Houston is looking shabby right now. They look bad right now. They look lost. They look broken. I don't know what's going on with them. Obviously, I'm not in the room with them. I'm not in the practice. I'm not on the bus with them, so I don't know if it's beef. I know they've been playing bad since the All-Star break. They haven't looked good since the All-Star break. They won games here and there. They went on a couple game win streak here and there, but when it's big game time, they're losing. And losing to the Bulls the other night wasn't a good look. So I'm gonna go ahead and take Minnesota. Big win on the road against Boston. That should give them a sugar high coming home without Ant. They're 9-4 this year without Ant. Not a great sample size, but it's a big enough sample size for me to see that they play confidently without Ant. They don't fold like most teams without their superstar. They fold. So go ahead and give me Minnesota plus 1.5 at home. So to go ahead and recap the games we're taking today, we got Detroit at home against Atlanta minus 2.5. We got OKC on the road against Boston minus 2.5, and we're taking Minnesota at home plus 1.5 against Houston. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in today, March 25th, 2026. Chilling with your boy Trouble, Total Payout Podcast. Go ahead and give me a like, comment, and subscribe at the end of this video. I greatly appreciate it. You guys have a great day. Please stay out the way. Thank you.
A heavyweight, they be light work. Change my lane on these niggas and it might work.